Let's start off by crediting South Florida. They played with the appropriate level of force.
But the rookie arrived with a visible chip on her shoulder, fully prepared to exploit every single weakness in the national team's defensive armor. What happened over the course of that session was nothing short of a basketball revelation, exposing the glaring flaws in an old-school mentality that prioritizes tenure over transcendent ability. But the unbelievable shots she took that day were only the very beginning of a much larger, far more controversial story. What unfolded next on that practice floor completely defied the laws of physics and exposed the glaring gaps in the veteran squad's defensive schemes. Clark began pulling up from well beyond the logo, sinking consecutive shots would release so fast that the seasoned defenders couldn't even get their hands up in time to contest the ball. We are talking about deep, incredibly difficult threes that are normally considered terrible shots for anyone else. But for her, they were dropping with terrifying consistency. The coaches standing on the sideline, the very same people who argued that she needed more time to develop before facing international competition, were allegedly exchanging nervous glances as the net kept swishing without the ball ever touching the rim. She was drawing double and even triple coverage the second she crossed half court, creating a chaotic gravitational pull that the established national team simply did not know how to handle. Every time they tried to trap her in the corners or blitz her on the pick and roll, she found an impossible escape route, completely neutralizing the physical play that veterans usually rely on to intimidate younger players. The sheer offensive pressure she applied was unlike anything the coaching staff had prepared for, highlighting exactly what the official roster was desperately missing when it came to stretching the floor. Defenders who have won multiple championships and defensive awards were reportedly left looking entirely helpless, their footwork rendered obsolete by a player who seemingly possessed unlimited shooting range. This wasn't just a lucky streak. It was a systematic dismantling of a defensive philosophy that had governed the national team for over a decade. And what happened next would shock everyone in the building even more. It wasn't just her shooting that left the gym stunned. It was a display of court vision so hyper-advanced that it made Olympic-level defenders look like they were moving in slow motion. Clark started threading blind, no-look passes through impossibly tight windows, anticipating the movements of players before they even knew where they were supposed to go. In one specific sequence heavily discussed in inner basketball circles, she whipped a blistering pass through the extended arms of three converging defenders, hitting a cutter perfectly in stride for an uncontested layup. The national team veterans were visibly frustrated, completely unable to read her eyes or predict her next move because she was processing geometry of the game as speed they simply hadn't encountered before. Coaches who had built their entire legendary careers preaching fundamental conservative basketball were suddenly watching a first-year pro effortlessly rewrite the playbook right in front of their eyes. Her ability to mentally manipulate the defense, forcing them to overcommit to the threat of her shooting only to punish them with a devastating assist, was an absolute nightmare to strategize against. It became glaringly obvious to every single person in that gym that her basketball IQ was not just ready for the global stage, but arguably superior to the seasoned veterans who were supposed to be the undisputed gold standard. She was essentially playing chess while the greatest offensive stoppers in the country were playing checkers. Reacting a full second too late to every single decision she made was a closed chapter, a finalized list of veterans destined to bring home the gold without any distractions. But whispers leaking out a highly restricted closed-door practice session had just turned the entire basketball world upside down and left some of the sport's most powerful coaches completely speechless. Rumors have been swirling for weeks about what really happens when the cameras stop rolling and the rising stars face off against the established veterans in environments where pride is the only thing on the line. People assumed the older players would easily assert their dominance and prove exactly why the selection committee made the choices they did, justifying the exclusion of the most famous rookie in the history of the sport. Instead, eyewitnesses from a recent high-level scrimmage say Caitlin Clark stepped onto the floor and delivered a performance so flawless and unprecedented that the entire gym fell dead silent. She wasn't just playing basketball. She was putting on a masterclass that completely dismantled the defensive strategies of the best players in the world. It was a moment of pure, undeniable talent that instantly validated every single fan who argued she was robbed of a spot on the global stage. The sheer intensity of the scrimmage reportedly caught the veteran players completely off guard as they expected a timid newcomer who who would naturally defer to their seniority.